What if shrinking could make you rich, but cost you everything? One decision, 5 inches tall, no way back. Ready for today's story? We're on mission to reach 1,000 subscribers. Join the Sydney Recap family and subscribe now. The story begins inside a scientific laboratory. Several experiments are being conducted on mice. One scientist is working on a very important experiment. He injects a mouse with a special type of serum and then places it inside a sealed box. After some time, when he checks the mouse again, his eyes fill with shock and excitement. The experiment has succeeded. He immediately runs to his senior scientist, Dr. Andres, and shares this incredible news. The project they had been working on for many years has finally achieved a major breakthrough. After this huge success, a large press conference is organized. Dr. Andres stands in front of the audience and explains their work. He talks about the problems facing the world: wars everywhere, climate change, and pollution that continue to trouble humanity. Then he removes a small box placed on the table. Underneath it stands a tiny man. This is Dr. Jorgen, the lead scientist of the project. The entire room falls completely silent when people see him. Dr. Jorgen explains that 32 members of his team, including his wife, voluntarily underwent this process. All of them are now only 5 inches tall. He assures everyone that the procedure is completely safe and painless. To prove his claim, another assistant brings the rest of the team on a trolley. The audience watches in disbelief as many tiny people wave at them. Dr. Jorgen declares that this is the beginning of a new era and the result of 5 years of secret hard work. To demonstrate how beneficial this experiment is for the world, an assistant lifts a small plastic bag. He explains that this tiny bag contains all the waste produced by these 32 people over the last 5 years. The message is clear. When humans are smaller, they consume less space, less food, and fewer resources. Dr. Jorgen openly invites the entire world to undergo this process. The news spreads like wildfire across the globe. Everyone starts talking about downsizing, becoming small. The focus of the story now shifts to our hero, Paul. Paul is living a very ordinary life, taking care of his sick mother at home. Unfortunately, despite all his care, her health continues to decline, and after some time, she passes away. Paul works in a factory and also helps sick people alongside his job. Helping others brings him genuine happiness. He is married to a woman named Audrey. They do not have children, but they love each other deeply. After marriage, they buy a new house, which drains all their savings. That's when Paul realizes how difficult and expensive it is to achieve one's dreams. One evening, Paul and Audrey attend a party with their friends. The main attraction of the party is 2 small people, Dave and Carol. They are there to promote downsizing. Dave tells the crowd that becoming small has no disadvantages. People can still do everything they enjoy, but in a world where their money goes much further. He explains that their community is called Leisureland, where everything is incredibly cheap. He talks about his massive mansion, something he could never afford in normal life. This presentation deeply affects Paul and Audrey. When they return home, new dreams begin forming in their minds. A few days later, they are invited to visit Leisureland. The next morning, they go there and see a perfectly clean, beautiful place built exclusively for small people. A cheerful, tiny man welcomes them and gives them a tour. He shows them his luxurious home, which he bought for just a few dollars. He introduces them to his small-sized wife, and together they paint a picture of a happy, stress-free life. A comfortable life without financial worries suddenly looks extremely appealing. The tour guide continues explaining how downsizing completely transformed his life. He assures them that anyone can safely undergo the process without any problems. Paul and Audrey then meet a doctor who explains the financial reality very clearly. He tells them that after downsizing, their large house will become useless. If they sell it, they will become incredibly wealthy in Leisureland, where everything is so cheap that their money will never run out. Finally, Paul and Audrey decide to downsize. Paul goes to work and tells his coworkers that it's his last day. He explains that he is going to become small and start a new life in Leisureland. His colleagues are happy for him and say goodbye. Paul and Audrey meet all their friends one last time, knowing they may never meet again. They sell their house, remove their wedding rings for the procedure, and prepare to leave their old lives behind. The next morning, along with many hopeful people, they board a special Leisureland bus that takes them to a massive factory where humans are transformed. They are given one final chance to change their decision. An officer asks if they have any doubts or if anyone is forcing them. Both Paul and Audrey confidently say they are doing this willingly. They are informed that the process for men and women happens in separate areas. They hug one last time and promise to meet on the other side. Paul is taken to his section, where many naked men are preparing for the procedure. Their body hair is completely shaved. Rotten and damaged teeth are removed. Everything happens under anesthesia, so they feel no pain. Paul is then placed inside a large, advanced machine. The process lasts about 20 minutes. When it ends, Paul has been perfectly reduced to just 5 inches tall. The newly downsized people are taken to a recovery area designed for their size. Small doctors treat them, and artificial teeth are fitted where needed. After a long time, Paul regains consciousness. He lies on a tiny bed. A small nurse reassures him that he is completely fine and that the procedure was successful. She gives him tiny clothes and a massive biscuit, which looks like a sofa cushion from his new perspective. But Paul isn't worried about himself. He is desperately searching for Audrey. Suddenly, his phone rings. It's Audrey. Her voice is filled with fear and regret. What she says completely shatters Paul. During the final stage of the procedure, she became terrified while watching her hair being shaved. She couldn't handle it. She decided to back out and left the facility while Paul completed the process. Now Paul is only 5 inches tall, alone in this tiny world without his wife. Paul begs Audrey to come back, telling her everything will be fine and that hair grows back. But Audrey has made up her mind. She says she is too scared and will not return. She says goodbye and hangs up. Paul is left completely alone, 5 inches tall, forever. His heart is broken. His dream of a perfect new life collapses before it even begins. Despite living in a massive luxury mansion, Paul feels deeply lonely. Soon, his wedding rings are sent to him. They are enormous compared to his size, making his pain even worse. A full year passes. Paul remains alone. He lives a life of luxury, but has no one to share it with. Occasionally, he meets his friend Dave, who tells him there are plenty of women and that he shouldn't overthink things. One evening, Paul is on a date at his house, but everything feels forced and empty. Suddenly, his loud and party-loving upstairs neighbor, Dusan, barges in and invites him to a huge party. With nothing else to do, Paul agrees. The next night, Paul attends Dusan's extravagant party, bringing a large rose as a gift. Dusan encourages him to drink, party, and forget his wife. But Paul can't connect with anyone. He drinks heavily, dances wildly, and eventually passes out. By morning, the party is over. Only Paul and Dusan remain in the messy apartment. A cleaning crew arrives. Dusan is wealthy and lets others handle everything. As Paul wakes up with a hangover, he notices one of the cleaning women. He recognizes her immediately. It's Sarah, a famous Vietnamese activist he saw in the news a year ago. Her entire community of small people had been destroyed, and she was the only survivor. She lost one of her legs and now uses a prosthetic. Paul approaches her, shocked that someone like her is doing this kind of work. She tells him she needs to survive, and this job helps her get by. Paul notices she is collecting some medicines from Dusan's apartment. He warns her, but she explains they are for a sick friend. Dusan allows cleaners to take whatever they need. Paul notices that Sarah's prosthetic leg is poorly fitted and likely causes her pain. He offers to fix it. Sarah is happy and tells him he's a good man. She asks if he can also check on her sick friend. Wanting purpose in his life again, Paul agrees. They take a bus to a hidden part of Leisureland. On the way, they cross a massive wall. On the other side, Paul sees a poor settlement made of old shipping containers where people like Sarah live. She takes him to her small container home where a very sick woman lies on a bed. Sarah asks Paul to treat her. Paul explains he isn't a real doctor, but Sarah insists he knows more than she does. Paul carefully gives the woman some medicines. Later, he returns to fix Sarah's prosthetic leg. But during the repair, it suddenly breaks. Sarah becomes angry, but Paul refuses to give up. He carries her on his shoulders and promises to fix his mistake by working as a cleaner until her leg is repaired. Paul begins cleaning the homes of wealthy people in Leisureland. Though the work is humiliating, he doesn't mind. Helping others gives his life meaning again. He stays close to Sarah and sees another side of her, how she helps elderly and sick people despite her own poverty. Her kindness deeply touches him. One day, while cleaning Dusan's apartment, Doosan jokes about how Paul used to own a mansion and now cleans houses. Paul simply says it's a long story. Doosan mentions a secret, high-paying mission to Norway and invites Paul to join. Sarah insists on coming too. The group travels by boat. During the journey, Paul meets Dr. Jorgen again and his wife Annie. Dr. Jorgen reveals a horrifying truth. Melting glaciers are releasing massive amounts of methane gas, and the world is heading toward destruction. Downsizing was an attempt to save humanity, but it's too late. That night, overwhelmed by the truth and their growing bond, Paul and Sarah grow closer and spend the night together. After a long journey, they reach Norway, where they find a peaceful community living in harmony with nature. There are no walls or separation like Leisureland. Paul is shown a massive tunnel inside a mountain. 2 kilometers underground lies a giant bunker designed to preserve humanity for 8,000 years. Inspired, Paul decides to enter the bunker to serve a greater purpose. But Sarah is heartbroken. She accuses him of abandoning her. As the group prepares to enter, they watch the sunset one last time. Paul walks into the dark tunnel, but stays at the very end of the line. With every step, he realizes that survival without loved ones is meaningless. Outside, Sarah and Doosan wait, hoping he will return. Suddenly, Paul emerges from the darkness. He has changed his mind. Paul looks Sarah in the eyes and tells her the truth, that he loves her. Together, they choose to leave luxury behind and dedicate their lives to helping others. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel.